section thing there.
Oh yeah, I always do that wrong.
Show
Yeah.
chat, is that?
Yeah, then you can see all the people talking smack in the comments.
Join the chat. Happy days.
There we go. Is it working? I think we're good. Am I getting notifications? No, I'm not.
Connect to YouTube.
I don't see any chats. Can you see your chats?
Nobody's commenting yet. So it should be
Alright,
popping
they'll
up in a
come up.
sec, that's why.
Okay.
Oh, there we
There's
go.
Daniela. Hello, good morning, Daniela. Hi, Taletha. Good morning, honey. Hi, Adriana. You seeing their comments popping up now?
No.
It should be top right corner. You just got to click comments.
Ah.
And it should be working. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Christina. Hi, Kisha. Hi, Attila. Good morning.
Hi, folks. It's easier to just cover it generally.
So, Rob.
Good afternoon or morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's nice to officially meet you. I've heard some wonderful things about you.
Really? Okay.
Where are you from?
I hear you've got a good sense of humor. We welcome those around here.
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you. You good?
So, I'm very well, thank you. It has been it's been an interesting morning so far. Just been did you guys hear about what happened in the States? All of our phones went down for 4 hours or so.
No.
Really?
They shut down the whole phone grid.
Really? Wow.
They're making very light of it right now. My mom thinks it was a big test to see how we would handle the situation. They're testing to see if we'll freak out with our phones not working.
Is that the mobile phone network or landline phone?
Yeah, mobiles. All the mobiles went down. The whole AT&T network. They were blaming solar flares. We had 2 massive X-class solar flares last night.
Yeah, why?
And the media is not even talking about it because it happened at 4 o'clock in the morning and it went down for only about, depends on where you were. My sister lost it for about 4 hours. All she could do was text. Even 911 didn't work.
Really? Wow.
Yep. So my mom, I was telling my mom this morning, she's like, oh my God, what's happening? I was like, see, I told you.
That's a start.
Probably. Well, there's weird stuff going on this morning. So that's why I was like, okay, we'll just see how like I said, they're blaming solar flares already. And what have we said about these solar flares and about how things are getting really interesting?
Yeah, well, you map that every day. Don't you have an app on your phone with that?
I do. Yeah, I track it every day. In fact, I'll show you guys how big these flares were. They were massive. Yeah, see, look.
Oh, right. Oh, they were quite big. Yeah.
How come it didn't affect us in Britain? It's just America.
Because it was a test. I'm telling you, that's why I don't believe it was the solar flares. I don't think they were big enough. They will get bigger, and they will be.
If it's bigger, it would affect everyone, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the satellites were affecting in America, why weren't you guys affected? Do you have AT&T and all that over there?
That's probably asleep.
I was gonna say
at that time.
They're saying it was the AT&T networks and the Verizon networks, but everybody was affected. So
yeah,
like every network, even Google calls were down.
Really?
Yeah. So very weird. I didn't lose it. For some reason here in Pennsylvania, we were fine, but up in New York, in Texas, in Washington, and a whole bunch of places in Jersey, there's a lot of places. So I don't know why it was so sporadic, why some places lost it and others didn't, but they said their whole network was down. Very strange stuff.
Well, that would be very unlikely, wouldn't it?
I mean, weird.
Me and Bobby both work for a mobile phone company, Orange, in the UK. So to take a whole network down, I mean, you'd have to lose all of the back end IT stuff, and the infrastructure is set up with DR across different geographical time zones and stuff. So I can't believe for a moment one thing would take down the whole network across the whole of the country.
Apparently there's a lot of other networks that use those major networks. So when AT&T went down on their satellites, and not just their satellites went down, but their towers went down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was either probably some kind of a cyber attack or some kind of thing that made it look like one. But it was very strange. It's never happened the way that this has happened before. It was like a rolling blackout almost, but for mobiles. Very strange.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure they'll be making up a whole bunch of stuff in the news about it today.
Well, that's the thing you can guarantee, can't you? If you actually watch what the news says and then work on the opposite angle, that tends to be the general line of truth, really.
That's exactly how I think of it. Yeah, the opposite is more likely the truth than anything else.
Yeah.
So shit is, as Keisha said, shit's about to get real. Exactly. So I've heard that you've known Andy, what, 30 years now, something like that? Long time?
Yeah. Well, that was 1995, most probably longer than a lot of your people have lived.
I was 10 years old in 1995.
Yeah, but we met at Orange, which is a mobile telecom company. Funny enough, we're talking about it. And what happened was I traveled for a year around the world, and I came to Orange, and it's a big corporate, really full on, and everybody seemed, like going out of their heads. It was just so busy, and the only person I got introduced to the group was Andy, and he was like really calm, and so we just bonded. Because he was the only person that seemed normal out of all of them. And basically, I was a few years ahead in experience. So I sort of took him under my wing and he took me under his wing. And we kind of like bonded and just worked together a lot. And, we were very normal guys, no Chen, no spiritual stuff going on at that time. It was just us. And Andy, he might be a bit embarrassed me saying that, but he was the help desk girl pinup boy.
I've forgotten that.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago. But, he was a good-looking boy then. And then, so that was our first sort of, we worked together. And as time went on, we had quite an important role, like he was explaining. We did all the computer systems side of it. So when things went wrong, they never went wrong like you're talking about last night. But, you would find that areas do go down, but not all of it. So that's quite catastrophic if it's that. So after that, you want me to carry on with the history?
By all means.
It's so long ago and I'm getting old just to remember all the dates. But what happened was, I had a bit of a health complaint. Andy left in 96 or 7, and but we still kept in contact. And then I am a contractor, and he took up contracting, and he's surpassed me. he did really well for himself. So he was always going to be this big IT system guy, and off he went. And we did keep in touch. And what happened was, in parallel to that, I had a health problem. And in the end, after speaking to loads of doctors and all sorts of stuff, I got some Reiki and spiritual healing done. I didn't know anything about it, but I just saw it. I live in a very weird place. It's in Somerset. If you've heard of Glastonbury, it's near there. And that's where all the like ley lines and all sorts of stuff going on there. So there's a lot of alternatives there. And I went to get some healing done. This is after 6 months of drinking water, like maybe 5 liters a night. Every night I had diabetes insipidus, it was called. And just to speed it up, I don't want to talk about me. I got some healing. And then Andy was telling me he had a lot of problems in his house. And he showed me a video of this stuff coming through his walls. He heard these noises and he filmed it. And it was just like this black stuff sort of spilling through his windows and along his walls. He called them black dogs, I remember. And he gave me a copy of the film, and I can't find it. But I could not believe it. And I said, this is what is going on. So if you went round to his house, my arms were prickling, and it was just like horrible being in his house. And he was trying to put salt around his room, anything. He didn't know anything, but he was learning, and I didn't know much. And I said, well, how about I get some healing done? I didn't know what was going on. So what happened was, I was going to this NFSH every week. I used to go, and they did meditation and it was just lovely. In fact, Roger and Kim have started a Federation of Healing in California now. They moved, but I went to them every week for years, and I always felt that was a really lovely, like, fulcrum of the week. You know, on that day I would get peace, and I'd be quite good for the rest of the week. So I said to Andy, who wasn't doing too good, he was very unhappy with what was going on. So he came along to this NFSH evening. There's like 20, 30 people. And I said, just sit down, just shut your eyes and follow the instructions. And I sat down, not sat down. And we're sort of waiting there, and they're going through a lovely meditation. And then suddenly we hear this unbelievable scream. And it was Andy. And I opened my one eye like that. And what's going on? And he was like screaming. And he was like really not good. And I was like, oh no. So I ran to him, but he was all right. And he just seemed a bit different. He was like shiny, really shiny. And his eyes were all white, and it was just strange stuff. So, I mean, you remember that, Andy, don't you?
Because that was, you describe it. No.
So that was like kind of like the start of all this stuff, where he's later on he told me he started hearing voices, and he thought, is there something going wrong? Am I schizophrenic, or what's going on? I said, well, what's it saying? And basically he started communicating with Chen more or less straight after that. And yeah, so I kind of like, we were meeting regularly, and then he was doing his stuff, and then not that long after, what happened then? Let me get it. Yep. What happened was I came to work at AXA. It's another horrible insurance corporate company that we were working at. We keep doing this stuff. Good to know that we're not in corporates anymore, either of us. So yeah, what happened was by that time I had another problem. I had what's called prostatitis. So I found like I couldn't sit down more than like 20 minutes. So I was in pain, you know. And I'd seen all the doctors. All they did was give me a pain clinic and lots of drugs. And Andy was, you know, time had gone on, and he'd met Chen, and things were beginning to happen. He said, "Do you want to meet Chen?" And I said, "Yeah, all right." Are you sure? And he went, "Yeah, come on." I think I was like, apart from Andy's wife, I was the first one to meet Chen. So I said, "So what are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, just sit down there, Bobby." He calls me Bobby. You just sit down and wait. And he says, "I've got to just let him come through." And you've all seen it, so you know. But you know, again, this wasn't in my kind of environment. I wasn't aware of this. And I know Andy by that time, like 9-10 years. I know what he's like. I know how he talks. And this person came through, and he has his eyes open. And our Chen these days closes his eyes, but they were wide open, and it wasn't Andy's eyes. And he went, "Oh, hello, I'm very pleased to meet you. Very nice." And I, what? And my jaw must have just gone to my knee. It wasn't Andy. And then I started talking to him. I had a very long conversation, and I said to Andy later on, "Did you remember any of that?" And he goes, "No, it's like I go into another room, and I read a paper, put my feet up, and then I come back." And oh my God. And it was a really interesting chat. The trouble with Chen is I've talked to Chen quite a lot, but it's very hard to remember a lot. It's so much condensed information. It's hard to remember it all, but there's some good stuff in the early days that we talked about. And he had, you know, picked on Andy especially because he's very calm, and I've never seen him not calm. He's also very easygoing, and he's very open. And well, that's what Chen wanted. He wanted someone that wasn't too intelligent. Not saying that you're not intelligent, because you're very intelligent, but not someone that's going to question everything. He just wanted someone that would just do the job and not give him a lot of hassle. Basically, that's how. You know, an open sort of person with an open personality, and that's how he chose. Chen chose him and not me. Not that I'm intelligent. But anyway, that worked well. And one of the funny stories was like Andy started trying out Chen magic on me, and I remember once we kept going to the gym every week, and then one time I said I can't do the gym. My like your prostatitis down below is hurting a lot. And he said, well, let me have a go, Bobby. And he put his hands down there and in the gym to try and heal me. But we're just thinking, wouldn't it be funny? Because he was like sweating and really hot. Andy couldn't control
Somebody walks in, it's not going to
someone
look
walked
like
in,
what
his
it
hands
actually
down
is.
there while sweating in the gym.
Yeah, we were in the changing rooms, obviously.
The changing room, yeah. Can you imagine that? So yeah, so that's how I met Chen, and Andy's from then on, forever has been building up. It was always like, Chen always had huge ideas that this was going to be very, very big. But you can imagine from our point of view as me, Andy's partner, and me, and one or two others, and he started a small group, and he also was like working very hard in other IT contracts, like on top of all of that, and and the normal family stuff he had, like there was a lot going on, but to have this vision of what this was going to become, and I can see it now beginning to really grow massively, since our days. So that's really.
I think that was the thing, wasn't it, Bobby? Back in the day, me talking to Chen, no one else really believed the things I was saying and hearing, really. And Bobby knew me pretty well, and even he was struggling to believe and said, "Well,
yeah, but so were you." And my wife actually had cancer. And we went to Chen, and she managed. She was given a lot of negativity from the doctors, and I'm not saying, I can't say it was Chen fully that did it, but she did so many things. So she did an awful lot of things. She had loads of tumors, and she had in her bladder a lot of cancer that could move through to her other organs. And we went to see Andy twice, and both times I think she saw him for about an hour. But the one good thing about my wife now is she's completely clear, and to the doctor could not believe it. He looked at her and says she had no treatment. All he did was tell her all the bad news, and through alternative treatments, and Andy certainly being a main one, she is completely clear, and she's been clear for 3 years. And I got one last story that is quite interesting. Was I also got problems that I'm working with, and I thought I'll go and see Andy. I've got like a free ticket to see Andy anytime, haven't I? I know you guys want to see him, but yeah, all I have to do is buy my beer or something, and I get in. But what happened was, like, I kept Andy's really busy these days. I don't get to see him as much as I used to, and we sort of agreed a date, and I was going to drive and see him, and I know I had a lot of negativity around me, and I was clearing myself, but it wasn't particularly happening. And my car kept breaking down, and then I got it fixed. At one point, bolts had come out the engine, so the engine nearly fell out, and that's just unheard of, And the guy who looked at it said, I can't understand why that would happen. But then I was driving to Andy. He lives about an hour away from me, and 100 yards from his house, some van smashed into the back of my car, and it, like, really bad bash. But I managed to limp to Andy's house in my car, and Chen told me, I had an hour session with Chen. He was telling me that the negative knew I was coming to Chen, and it was trying everything it could to stop me seeing Chen to be released. And I can believe that, because several times this has happened. It's not that old a car, and to get bashed, it was like a very straight. It wasn't like I was just sitting there turning right and the van came into me. It wasn't. It was obviously I was turning right. So yeah, and that's that only happened about, was it 5 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
And yeah, so there's lots of little stories that I can't remember, but these were some of the main ones. Does that help?
Absolutely. And it's funny too, going back to hearing Andy's little scream at the beginning there, channeling that inner banshee or whatever he was doing at that. That's very interesting.
I can still hear it. Because
Well, I think
that's
that's the
never
thing, isn't it?
happened. They're all quite conservative at the NFSH.
Yeah, I was a bit of an enigma at the time, if I remember.
Yeah.
They weren't quite.
But
Well,
you
I guess
did
I
come
probably
back.
obviously had stuff with me. Basically, that was the deal, wasn't it? And you know, that kind of came out during that meditation, which well, I didn't even know anything about meditation. So for me, it was all completely new. I used to think that Bobby used to go off to this like cult evening with his mates, basically, and do
Yeah.
stuff. But you know, it's funny how things change.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, there is no like way that you can be easily prepared for these kind of shocks. You know what I mean? It's like when you have all of these new realizations coming through and spirit starts kind of taking over in a way, it can be really, really almost traumatizing in a way because you're so not used to it. None of this stuff was real according to most people.
Yeah.
So trying to find somebody that can even keep up as to what you're going through, let alone understand it. Rob, you are so special. I just want to say, Andy's so lucky to have you. Because most friends would just run for the hills. They'd be like, this guy's lost the fucking plot. I'm out of here. And they would run. But instead of running, Rob, you actually like backed him up. And that's so cool of you. I just want to say, like.
Well, to be honest, like I won't go on about me too long, but I had a kind of psychic encounter a few years ago before I met Andy, and some of the things that he was talking about happened to me. And I think you talk about shadows and stuff like that, don't you?
Yeah.
And I had a shadow in my bed, or right in front of me, and I noticed like things were moving around the room. I lived in Holland at the time, and I had no idea what was going on. And very quickly, I wanted to go and see a spiritual psychic. A friend of mine said it'd be really worthwhile seeing someone. This is way before I met Andy, and my own experience. And at the time, I was leaving Holland, and I was in my early 30s, and I hadn't got a partner, and I really wanted to meet someone special. And what happened was I kept on making a date to see this person in England, and then after I made the date, this woman, so I made the date, and then I wasn't sure whether I should go, and then a wedding came up, and basically I went to this wedding. I met this girl. I went to see Vivian, and Vivian said, "You've just met your life partner or your soulmate," and I had, because within 4 days we got engaged. And then she said, "You're going to be traveling around the world," which we did. And she said that the shadow was my grandfather, and he was so out of body for so long. He was trying to encourage me, and all the dates all came together. And so basically, there was a lot of stuff going on in the flat, and then when I got back, it was all quiet again because I met this person and everything worked. And so that was my experience of some psychic stuff that was going on. I could not explain it, and so my tiny little bit of experience. I was thinking of Andy because he had a lot of that stuff going on as well, but I didn't get all this black stuff coming through there. He was really getting it. I just got a little bit of a nudge, and I was a bit.
What did Chen say the black stuff was? Did he? It sounds like some kind of ectoplasm or something. Did he say what it was?
Andy?
I think it was probably entities, wasn't it? I mean, at the time, things were quite bad for me, really. So I was kind of walking in a pretty bad place, sort of every day, sort of close to the edge. So I was leaning on Bobby quite a bit, talking about these things I was experiencing, sort of goosebumps and sleeping problems and things, climbing into bed and touching you where they shouldn't really touch you and all that kind of stuff. And of course, you wonder if you're making it up, because I'm talking to Bobby and he's like, we're both in IT, he's black and white, and he's saying, well, you've got to be having dreams. And, Rob was always looking for like the skeptical angle as to this can't be happening. It's just your perception. And I was like, yeah, but this is my perception. This is what's happening every bloody day, basically. And it's getting worse every day as well. That was where I was coming from. Because you were trying to find ways to.
Yeah, and you can tell anyone else because they all think you're a loon and you'd lose your job.
That's what the logical mind does. It's always grasping for some kind of explanation that would make sense to what we already believe, so we don't have to relearn something new.
Yeah, and of course, there's nowhere to reach for help. Really, I mean, I contemplated churches, but I'm not religious, and I didn't believe in all that stuff anyway. So I knew if I went to see a vicar, I'd probably not get anything from them that I wanted. And you can't go and see a doctor because you get sectioned. So literally, you're sort of in this place whereby, you rely on your mates really. And that's where Rob was quite good for me, because he did kind of keep me anchored in, a kind of level of kind of normality for a while.
And all I say is, like, Andy had like hell when he went home, and to the point where he didn't want to go home. And but like, he also had this job to do, so he did brilliantly well to carry on working like normal, and having all the stress and responsibilities that he had in this job, and also come home and then have all that at night.
Yeah, and of course, from my point of view, that's where kind of Chen came in, because I was obviously having this conversation with Chen. But of course, at the time, I didn't really know exactly who I was talking to and the things he was talking about. So you start sort of relying on this conversation that's going on in your mind, and then you start to relay that to your friends. And of course, the friends are very skeptical about the things you're being told, and like you're always saying, well, why has he picked you? Like, why would he be talking to you? And then I said, we're starting to do this psychic surgery stuff. And Rob was like, "You got to be kidding, man! Just you're letting him in to take over when you're not even there." Sort of thing. And,
Yeah, you got to really trust him to do that. He'll go. And I think it was your partner that said, when he opened his eyes and he was looking around the room like he hadn't seen Earth in 200 years, and he's like, it's really exciting for him. But she found it so weird that's why he shuts his eyes, because she said, do you mind shutting your eyes? Because it's too not like Andy at that time, and that's why Andy always has his eyes shut, because she asked him.
Jane was not keen on that, really.
Yeah.
I think it's that thing as well, when you're actually channeling in that way and they take over, obviously your eyes go black, basically, because it's not your eyes. So Jane was never keen to sort of look into my face to see that, because it is, a little bit shocking, because you really can see that the window to the soul is different, effectively. So that's, which I think is probably the reason most people that channel and, people you see on YouTube and stuff generally have their eyes shut, because obviously it's a little bit distracting when they're jet black.
It's really interesting that all forms of possession, whether or not it's a soul guide or an entity, it turns your eyes black. It makes you wonder what's up with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that is the weird thing. Because you would think if it was a positive possession,
you would have bright blue eyes or something. Like
maybe something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good point, really.
Your shiny white eyes.
Yeah.
Sparkly.
Actually, when he went to work the next day, people said, "What's wrong with your eyes?" People did notice it. It wasn't just me. And Andy was telling me, weren't you? You went to work the next day, and people go, "You got contact lenses or something in your eyes?"
Yeah, literally, the layer of negativity, once whatever was with me had been cleared, obviously changed the profile of your face, I guess, and the way you look and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the eyes are the key thing, really. I mean, when I'm out walking now, and you kind of, if we're working with clients, especially people that have been sectioned and are hearing voices, generally I can see the negative things in them looking back at me. So when that guy that walked in the room a little while back when I was working in Avebury, and I asked him, I could tell because he came with schizophrenia and all the other problems, and he was quite anxious and moving about. You could see quite a lot of problems mentally, which of course is why he was there. And when I asked him what he's come for, he actually said, "I've come to kill you," basically. And his eyes, you could see just hatred just flowing off of him. So whatever was with him, was viewing me in such a negative way. And I kind of laughed, but this guy was 6'3" and built like a shit. And I said, "I think you need to hop on the bed," because I thought as soon as we can get him on the couch, Chen takes over from there on in, so I don't really have to deal with anything. But I kind of escorted him over to the bed fast and said, if you can just lie down. Because once they lie on the bed...
Just hold that thought for a second.
Pinned down. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, honestly, I'm just curious. How did Chen actually, suggest taking over your body? How did he work that into the conversation? Like, I, I'm just curious how somebody eases their human, I guess is the best way I could put it, into allowing them to be that vessel for them. Like, did he have to? I imagine it took quite a while for him to convince you to release that, let your guard down to that degree.
Yeah, so when I was going to like a weekly meditation group, so we just do normal guided meditation and things. And then effectively it got to the point that obviously I was talking to Chen and he was saying that he'd quite like to kind of experience, being in the physical. So could he start to take over for the duration of the meditation? And some of the other guys I was in the group with were doing sort of physical trance stuff. So I kind of changed groups at that point and we started to do physical trance meditation. So I mean, that probably took about a year. So every week I'd go, I'd talk to Chen, he'd say I'm going to come in and take over. I'd start to let him take over. So I used to see like a black form and coming in front of me, almost like he was coming down in front of my body. I'd see the back of a black head and then I shit myself basically and then push him back out again. And I remember we were doing that weekly. So every week I think, right, I'll let him in a bit further and a bit further. And that probably went on for nearly a year. And then eventually,
the level of trust that you must have had to have in Chen while you've got all these like beasties coming at you. You got like black shit coming through the walls, and you're like, well, I trust you enough. You can, borrow me for a little bit. Like, how did you work that trust in there? Just through conversations with him, or? Yeah,
I was talking to him every day. So when I was driving to work, I was talking to him in the car every day. So we kind of, I started to trust him. So when I would drive home from Orange, I'd get him to say like left and right. So we'd come off the motorway junction a long way before where I live. And then I'd just drive down roads I didn't know. And he'd just say left and right. And I'd just do left and right. And then he'd try and get me back home. So it was kind of a way that I was learning to trust what he said. And obviously for him, it was, trying to convey that side of it as well, really. Because I think Jennifer just asked a question that I just laughed at because she said, basically your life, you have a shorter lifespan when you channel him. And that was one of the conversations, actually. He said, if you're going to work with me and I'm going to come in, when we come in and take over and channel in full trance, obviously your vibration goes up massively, which means we wear you out faster, in fact, because obviously it's like running a car at full speed compared to a car at half speed. So when they come in and your whole body is vibrating at a higher frequency, as Bobby said, you tend to sweat a lot because I used to just flood with heat, really. But obviously, you're kind of wearing everything out. So, it is part of the deal, I guess. That,
although you're controlling it better now. Before you...
Yeah, I'm sweating in my arms now, basically.
Yeah. So everybody have a look at Andy when he's doing it. You'll see sweaty arms.
Yeah, but yeah, so we kind of, But obviously, there is that aspect that, because obviously he's coming in every week, Chen's in quite a lot of my time now. So effectively, you start to get less of a life in that way because obviously you're handing your body over to another spiritual entity to take over for X amount of hours per week, which you could look at as a good thing because effectively, obviously, I get to go somewhere different, even though I'm not exactly sure where I do go. But on the other side of the coin, obviously, the body's being worn out. So, but then, if that's the kind of deal, which obviously it is before we come in, then I'm not too concerned about that, really. If if my life's 5 years shorter for working with Chen for the whole life, then it's not a bad price to pay, is it, really? If it's 25
the last 20 years,
I was going to say that.
Anyway,
It's funny when he was getting used to Chen. I mean, we were going, say, for lunch or something. It'd be like 3 of us going for lunch, and I would say, "Well, what's Shane say about this?" And he'd go, "Oh, he said that." It's like really weird, but it was quite good fun. It was so weird. I don't know anyone like Andy.
Nobody does.
Well, there are plenty of us about. It's just that there's not that many that you meet, I guess, really.
Yeah, but the thing is that I'm always a little skeptical, and like I would say, well, I've been to psychic surgeon, and I know some of the, I've heard of tricks that they do, like they throw something in the bucket and it goes clink, and the main difference between, for me, I'm not talking about everyone else, but as I know Andy really well, and he's just not like that. He doesn't care. This is what's just come up for him, and I'm knowing him all the way through. So I trust him as a person, and I know him as a person. I don't know any of the other guys or girls.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's trying to be authentic. And I always said, from the start with Chen, is if it doesn't work for people, I don't really care. Because if you remember, you used to say to me, do you think this is real? Or do you just think people get better because of, they've come to see you and it's kind of almost like, sort of Groundhog Day and they're just in that space. And then if they feel better, they think that you've made them better, but you haven't done anything. And I can remember us having quite a lot of conversations about, is this whole thing real or not really? And my take always was, if you remember, I don't really care as long as the output is good. So as long as people get better, or most people feel positive change, even if I'm not doing it and it's placebo for them, it doesn't really matter because it's still working. And I remember you saying to me, yeah, but you can't spend your whole life doing that.
I didn't project this.
Well, no. But that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, whether it's placebo or not, obviously, from my perspective now, there's like thousands and thousands of people that we've worked with. So if it is placebo, it kind of is good, that it kind of works. And I guess from your point, Laura, I mean, you've actually seen this stuff in reality as well, because we did that psychic surgery demonstration at the SRA, where you actually get to see stuff working. And, when you see it physically, it is very different to kind of watching it on TV or on YouTube or something.
To be fair, I think it kind of saved my life. I had really bad fibroids. I don't want to go too into detail, but I was losing a lot of blood. It was very bad, to the point where I couldn't even go to the grocery store. It was that bad. So I messaged Jono in a panic going, I don't know how I'm going to get on a plane. I can't even go to a grocery store right now. It's so awful. And Jono said, well, don't worry about it. I'll take care of this. We'll figure this out together. And it took him, it was about 3 psychic surgeries in a row. I'm even off my medication now. All of it's gone. I'm 100% healthy. My fibroids are good. Everything is good. So for me, they were talking about surgery, having to remove my uterus and a whole bunch of shit. Like this is Western society's, solution for you having woman problems. Is that, we'll just cut it all out. We'll just rip it out, And so I didn't think that there was anything that I could do for myself. So then even hearing about how other people have had success with their psychic surgery, I was still a bit skeptical because, when you're so locked into the physical, you don't think that anything spiritual can do too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's just energy. A lot of people don't think that, Reiki, for example, can be as powerful as it is because all you're doing is putting your hands on somebody. How is that going to affect anything? But you don't realize that these things are profoundly powerful and that this work really does, because it's all about, everything is energy. And when you have blockages in that energy and you have negative energy coming in and you have your thoughts working against you, and I hate to say it, but I also had karmic stuff too. What he found was ancestral karma stuff that I couldn't possibly have cleared on my own, no matter how much, holistic medicine, no matter how much Western medicine, that wouldn't have cleared the karma that was actually the root of the problem in the first place. So my point is like, there's so much that can be done with metaphysical healing that I feel is even more powerful than anything Western medicine can offer right now. So just speaking about your wife is a great example, Rob, like, I'm so glad to hear that she's well now. And it's just, I lost 2 very close loved ones to cancer, and it's heartbreaking that we didn't get this information sooner for other people that are no longer with us. And that's the one thing that, just in hindsight, I wish that we had known some of this sooner, but I am very glad for everybody that has been affected to this degree. And I don't think psychic surgery has been studied by really almost anybody. I don't think that there's lots of different forms of it. Lots of people do different types of psychic surgery. Even just Jono and Andy experiencing both are different, the way that Chen does it and the way that White Hope does it. But they're both profoundly powerful in ways that I don't think we even can put down on paper.
Yeah, I think that's because that is the whole thing about psychic surgery. When I started to do it, again, it was, we're not going to be using scalpels and chopping people about because obviously you can't do that in the Western countries. as in, if you're not a medical surgeon, you can't cut people open clearly. So when I first started to talk to Chen, and he said, we're going to do psychic surgery, I kind of laughed at the time. I thought, well, we can't do that. I've watched psychic surgery where they, like Rob says, they cut things and throw it in bins, and we can't be doing that really. And Chen said, no, this is the modern version. So it's literally etheric surgery, effectively, on the etheric field. And the changes we make will vibrate back into the physical. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about. I said, okay, yeah, we'll give it a go if that's what you want to do. But I don't really kind of know what you're talking about particularly. Because there weren't really any other people 20 years ago doing this type of psychic surgery that isn't with a physical scalpel, obviously. And that's kind of where we're moving now, because obviously the vibrations changing, dimensions are changing and stuff. And that's why we thought, as part of the next kind of SRT class, we're talking about, John and I are talking about having like 3 or 4 days after, in that second week, to actually teach people to do psychic surgery, because actually it's easier than doing SRA really, because when we're doing the SRA stuff, as you know, there's got to have a lot of things we need to cover and protocols, how to do things and practice and stuff. And the mediums need to talk to guides, so they need to have that connection in place. There's actually quite a lot of things to do when we're doing SRT, but psychic surgery is literally putting your hands on somebody, just getting yourself in the right place, and then calling the guides in to work through your, spiritual essence, if you like. And obviously, John and I can facilitate that in a room with lots of people, so that everybody actually gets to do it really quickly. So you don't need to have done years worth of practice or this and that. Effectively, just working with the spirit guides that we're talking to, we can kind of line those up to come and work with people. And then the people having the psychic surgery will actually feel things moving around inside them and things being cleared, and not just the negative stuff, but obviously physical bits and pieces as well. So it's kind of quite a cool, it's like a new version of medicine that I think we're sort of bringing online in a way, just that it's taken a long time to get there.
I actually, it's funny this morning I had a chit chat through one of my friends with my own guides, and they told me that I need to go and perform psychic surgery on my mom today. Because as I mentioned to you this morning, Andy, my mom's not been feeling very well. She's had really bad vertigo and some stuff going on, and I found out through my guides this morning that it's related to the you-know-what that I told her not to get, and she didn't listen to me, and now she's having the adverse reaction from it. And so the guides told me, they said, when you go to her house today, make sure you have to imagine it. You would go to the points where the injection was and pull it out. You can actually visualize. They told me to go and visualize pulling it out, and to let her see me doing this work, because it will actually go into her mind, and that she is seeing it happen, and that it is being pulled out, and that it will affect her. That's what they told me to do today. So I'm going to be going to my mom's and working on her little muggle ass, trying to pull all that bad stuff out of there. We'll see what happens. But, that's what I mean. Everybody is capable of doing this when they set their intention and connect with their spirit team.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you look at Reiki again, you're taught to do certain hand positions, and again, it's a very structured way of kind of doing things. Whereas the way that we teach psychic surgery is the opposite. Basically, there is no structure. All you need to do is calm your mind, basically, and become a channel, and just do nothing. Think about nothing. Don't control anything. You're not working on a particular problem. It's just let the guides come in, work through your hands, basically, and let them use your body as the instrument as such. And it's just about getting people into the right mindset to do that, which is actually quite quick to do when you're in a room together and you've got a couch and you've got people on it, effectively. So psychic surgery, I think, will be massive over the next 20 years or something, because it's the new 5D version of healing, really.
My hands are sweating just thinking about it. I'm priming it. Exactly. My palms are all sweaty right now just thinking about it.
Yeah, well, Bobby's had it a few times. What's your experience when we've done psychic surgery?
Yeah.
What do you actually feel?
Just your very, very warm hands going on me, and a calming effect, certainly.
We're all quite calm anyway, to be fair, aren't you, generally?
Not when your hands are down below on me.
Yeah,
well, didn't be a fly on the wall in that locker room.
I just think, well, for me, it all helps, and it can, if no one's saying everything's going to get cleared 100%. But all I can say is from what, in my experiences, there are many modalities out there. And, you know, like psychic surgeons certainly try it. There's journey, there's emotional therapy, there's all sorts of things out there. And it's definitely worth going and finding out yourself. And you can be responsible for your own health. You don't have to go to the Western medicine and expect them to fix everything, because they don't.
They don't want to fix everything. They want long-term customers. You know, if they fix it with one thing, then they can't keep selling you other things. So it's they want lifelong patients is what it is. And it's really frustrating that but you know what's funny? I've heard from about 5 different soul guides in the last 2 weeks that our pharmacies will be replaced with healing centers.
Yeah. Well,
so in the next 2 years, that's what I've heard. It's from multiple soul guides.
Because that was like Terry's kind of impression, really. Obviously, when we were doing the stuff with Terry and doing the SRT work and that kind of thing, he was trying to talk to the medical establishments to try and get SRT practitioners into every hospital, basically, so that when people were having operations, and certainly people that die in operations, we were making sure that the spirit of that person was transitioned to the light, and also keeping all the negative stuff out, because that's almost a bigger problem, really. So I think it will go that way, because obviously all of the vibrations and all that stuff's changing, dimensional stuff's changing. I think more people are seeing things. I think there will be a time that, which is why I think like the whole SRA thing has happened now for a reason. And obviously we've been working on it, John and I have been working on it for a year before we kind of mentioned anything about it to anybody, really. And it's kind of almost like it's come at the right time to get the right people trained to do this stuff that then can go out and help other people. But ultimately, some of those people are going to go into establishments and actually set themselves up as, practitioners in different ways, which is, I think, it's the new world of this whole spiritual kind of connecting with us as physical people happening. Because it is a union, really. Obviously, we don't do anything ourselves, but the guides are working with us. So this whole like human connected to spirit guide or spiritual entity, because a lot of these entities that Chen works with aren't human. So we are actually working with other entities already, just that we don't see them, or most people don't see them in that way. But this is going to be the new healing modality for the next probably 20 years or so, I think, and it's coming online fast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming out at the perfect time, because everything is a mess, And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't want to say goodbye to the way things are, and those people are holding up the progress. But I have a feeling that most of those people are in for a rude awakening. So it's just one of those things where we have to get ready for whatever could be thrown in our in our path next. So this whole SRT thing is honestly, I don't think I've ever found anything that is more effective at helping people. Because there's a lot of people right now who are in an existential crisis because their lives aren't what they thought they were, that the things that they've been building are collapsing because it wasn't on a sturdy foundation. And most of these attacks right now that we're starting to notice are almost like the dark side's getting desperate. It's kind of like they're trying to stop you from going and seeing Andy, Rob. They failed. They failed miserably. And it's like they're failing a lot of stuff right now. They're still going to try, but we are making sure that they fail. And it's that inner strength that we all have, and that we are, you don't even realize how important it is just making it to one appointment. But that one appointment can shift everything and change everything for people. So it's wonderful that we're all coming together at this time to work together, and that none of us are doing this alone.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. It's the whole union thing, isn't it? Community, really. And that was what we were trying to do with the SRA thing, is build like a community, which is when we found you. And obviously you already had the community. So effectively we kind of like jumped onto, a kind of ready-made community of receptive people thinking in the same way, wanted to do the same thing. And that's where, obviously John and I connecting with you has been sort of so instrumental in changing this whole game, because, we kind of have been jump-started in that way. And I think this is only the start as well. Because obviously, if you go along with Chen's view of the world, his view of the world is this whole mass healing thing that he's been talking about for 20 years. In fact, did he mention that when you were talking to him, Bobby, back in the day? The whole group healing, lots of people and all that stuff.
No, I
Yeah.
don't remember that. I remember a lot of stuff, but not
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So basically, that's obviously where he is now in this whole, mass. But he's talking huge numbers, basically, in kind of, big venues and things that,
Yeah, he was
you know.
talking about centres. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we were at one point we were talking about, like a small healing centre to do this stuff from.
Yeah,
His kind of worldview has now changed and been magnified massively, probably because obviously Terry's on the other side with him. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, isn't it?
It certainly is. And one of the things that I feel that Chen must have a lot of patience. He must have a monumental amount of patience to understand what needs to be done 20 years ahead. Start,
Well, I think there's a plan, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's, how many times did Rob say to me, "Why is Chen with you?" I never could answer it. I didn't know. I just thought, I don't know. But Rob used to go, "Yeah, but you don't question him and you just do as he says," which is where Rob and I are quite different, because Rob would have never done that because he's not that personality. He's much more skeptical and challenging in that way. And I used to say, well, yeah, but if that's what he wants to do, that's just what we'll do. So we kind of, I guess, that was the difference, wasn't it, really? When Chen came up with all these ideas and things he wanted to do, and I used to talk to you about it, Rob, you'd go, well, you've got to be mad, because you just, you don't know what he's going to do when he takes over your body. What if you don't get it back again? Which was always a risk, obviously.
yeah, but you trust him a lot more now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Again, you're going on, history is telling you, isn't it, that there's never been a problem up until now, and therefore the longer you do this stuff, the more trustful and confident you become, and also the more you take yourself out of it, really, because I don't really control anything anymore at all. I just let Chen do his own thing, and then when I come back, get a cup of coffee, carry on what I'm doing effectively. So
yeah, I mean, one thing he did tell me that I always remember, he's like quite a high level ethereal body that he's being that he is, and he was saying like heaven, or however you see the afterlife, is like a big tower, and he says most people like me will have a key card for the ground floor, right? But when you move and you develop and you get through what you're meant to be doing here, you go onto another level. So you would get another card that allow you out at level 2. And I think he was saying he's level 4. And this is what I remember. And I said, well, how many levels are there? He says he doesn't know. And he says, but I can't believe what the beings will be like on the upper levels. But that's where he is. And that's his job and duty, is to bring this to, the physical plane. That's what my questioning. I remember that.
your incessant questioning never used to stop, as I remember.
He always had good answers.
Yeah,
it's always been. We all know that Chen is more than he lets on. He's very humble, and I'm sure that we've all heard of other incarnations of Chen, but he hasn't taken credit for those yet. I have a feeling that he's more famous than he lets on.
Probably level 9.
Yeah, my dad passed obviously a year and a half ago. So obviously I was chatting to him when he was in spirit, and he came back and he never really believed any of this stuff and wasn't really into it at all, and just thought I was wasting my time, really. So it was never like a big thing in the family to talk about particularly. But when he came back, he said to me, "You'll never believe who Chen is." So I said, "Well, who is he?" He said, "I can't tell you." He said, "But you're not going to believe it when you get onto this side," which I thought was quite cool, because obviously it's better not knowing these things.
You're not going to believe it. Makes me think we already know. We already know his other version. We just don't know how to put the 2 and 2 together. We don't know that there's a, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just keep asking him.
He won't tell us. We already know he won't tell us. He's going to wait till we die in order for it.
Didn't you ask him that question, Laura? I think you've asked him, haven't you?
I did, yeah, and he was very coy. He played coy with me. He wouldn't tell me.
Yeah. Well, I think
to answer your comment, George, Chen is going to be coming on tomorrow. We get to have a little chat with Chen on Friday, And we're also going to have a little chat with Chen on Saturday. So I get to have 3 days of Andy.
Yeah, you do. Actually, yeah. 1 day of me, 2 days of Chen.
Yeah, so you guys will get to hear from Chen tomorrow. We'll be able to ask Chen a little bit about his Chen life anyway. I don't know who would cover other lives because he has he ever talked to you about other incarnations, or is it just that one?
He provides the least amount of information as possible, generally.
Mm-hmm. We see you, Chen. We know you're up to something.
Yeah, basically. You can more or less guarantee that, can't you?
Exactly.
That's why I think this whole like group healing thing's so interesting, because obviously, people actually feel these things happening. So if you could imagine like hundreds of people in a room, or like a stadium full of people with thousands of people, if everyone's going to get healed by something ethereal, that's Bobby said, that's thousands of entities that are working at the same time. So numbers become very big really quickly. And that obviously takes a massive amount of orchestration on their side of the fence as much as it does on this side. So, if we ever get to that kind of viewpoint, it's going to be quite interesting to see what's going on.
Aaron just said, I thought Chen was Buddha, but then we met Angela and Siddhartha, so maybe he's Lao Tzu. And it's funny she's Lao Tzu because that was one of Terry's soul guides, wasn't it?
That was the first encounter Terry had actually with Spirit, I think, was Lao Tzu, yeah.
Ha.
Interestingly. But then obviously Terry's about, so I was talking to Terry this morning, I was in the shower again, because he just comes in and,
Do you mind waiting till I'm not naked, Terry?
No, I've sort of given up with anything to do with privacy and discretion, really, because they just don't seem to. Well, it's not in there. They don't see, like Bobby said, they don't see things physically, do they? So they just see you as a blob of energy, and they're talking to you. And the fact that you might be, having a general cleanup in the morning in the shower isn't of any importance to them, really.
That's what my guide said to me on a mushroom trip once, actually. Because I asked them, I was like, is it weird? Because you guys are like watching us go to the bathroom and stuff. And they're like, we don't actually see it that way. And they said, besides, it's like your car is it's like your body is as much as a car. Do you get grossed out when you go for an oil change or something? No, it's just part of how the vessel works. And that's just, we don't get grossed out by any of that. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. Good to know.
Well, obviously, there's quite a few things that we all do as humans that we wouldn't really want anyone watching us doing effectively, unless you're into that kind of stuff. So, there is that.
That's one of the first things that people freak out about when they find out that they're never alone. They're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, of course, that's the thing, isn't it? If you thought your guide sat there watching you and you're busy talking to them at the same time, then obviously a lot of your bodily stuff that you're doing isn't kind of private anymore. That kind of was private before you thought that, really.
You just come in and be like, all right, everybody out.
Yeah, turn your lights off. Well, yeah, well, that was one of the first things I realised. Actually, I think Bobby mentioned it earlier. We were at Centre Parks on holiday, and Jane was chatting to Chen at the time, and Chen said, "Oh, can I come in?" And we were looking at this forest, and it started to rain. So the rain's all coming down through the trees, and it looks quite cool. And Chen said, "I'd love to see the forest with the water coming down the rain." So I let him in, and he opened my eyes, and he just stood there, just mesmerised by the scene. He said, "You don't realise this is absolutely amazing to watch." And yeah, Jane was sort of struggling a bit because he's been making a big song and dance about how wonderful it all looked, and the energy thing and the water and the whole forest, and of course you can hear the animals in the forest as well. And because we look at this and it's just normal to us, but of course you sort of forget that for them to be able to actually see it through somebody else's eyes is apparently like a massively rewarding experience.
Wow. I remember that was one of the first questions I asked just for fun to Chen, like, if you could have Andy's body for a whole day, what would you do with it? And Chen told me I would just go stand in the forest and I would enjoy, especially if it was raining, and he would just enjoy laying there in the grass or in the just laying and looking at the rain coming down and appreciating the animals and the dirt and the plants and the trees and how all of it is alive. Yeah. Every single bit of it.
And that's the funny thing, isn't it? Because if when you're talking to him and that's the answer, it kind of makes you realise what's really important. Because he isn't saying, I'm going to go to bingo or I'm going to go and do some gambling or go out for some food. It's like to stand and watch it raining in the woods type thing is more a marvelous view for them, effectively.
I do like that how that one time you were telling the story about how you were in church. I think it was like for a Christmas chorus concert or something like that, and you were a bit bored. So Chen's like, "Well, I'm interested. I'll enjoy it more then." And so you said Jane looks over and there's Chen just.
Well, he was clapping. So because I was talking to him.
Clapping.
Yeah, and I said to him, well, she said, oh, music's lovely, but I'd like to, appreciate that. I said, well, I'm not really enjoying it, to be honest. So, you can. So I didn't mention the Jane who stood next to me, so I just let him in. And I thought he'd just look, and he starts clapping. And of course, he's looking around and smiling, and Jane just staring at him like, what the hell?
You went from looking bored to looking like, yeah.
Yeah, literally, sort of. It's like neat kind of clapping thing that I would never do because it was very camp sort of clap. But, obviously, Chen thought it was wonderful. So we did have a few words when we left the church. As you can imagine, Jane wasn't over pleased that she didn't get the nod that he was about to take over again.
I wonder how it is for Jane. It's like being married to two men at the same time in the same body.
Yeah, well, they're very different, I guess. Really.
Get her insight on all this. What it's like to be married to Andy and Chen.
Well, yeah, she gets the best of both worlds, doesn't she? Really. Yeah. So she gets all of, like Rob said, she gets all of the interesting conversation with Chen. Then she obviously gets the normal part with me. Really.
Oh, you've got some.
I love it.
You've got some things to say, I'm sure.
Me.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Jane. She's watching. It's an interesting life, she said.
Oh yeah, she's downstairs basically. I'm upstairs in the study, and she's downstairs in the working room. The interesting life, yeah. I can remember some time ago when we first met and all these things started to happen. She didn't say it was an interesting life then. She used to keep saying, "When's my life going back to normal? Or when's our life going back to normal?" And I kept saying to her, well, I don't think it will. I think this is the new normal. And of course, she didn't want that life, basically. So there was quite a lot of interesting conversations about a match together and how we were going to kind of move it forward because the spiritual stuff was overtaking the real life that, we both had before what I became that way, if you like. So, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're trying to blend like a normal life, a normal relationship, a normal wife, children stuff into this spiritual thing that starts to overtake the physical. And then you've got, like, say, two blokes talking to you and, I was trying to practice getting Chen in. So I was encouraging her to talk to him at night. So they'd sit and talk for 2 hours, then we go to bed. And I'd say to her, well, what did you talk about? Well, nothing much. But you've talked for 2 hours non-stop. So, of course, I had I still have no idea what goes on in those conversations. But you don't end up with a very normal life in that way because you are sort of living this sort of parallel, two spiritual energies, I suppose, that are kind of taking control of one physical, very well kept body, obviously.
Has he ever said anything about your past life that you have with him?
What with Chen?
Yeah.
We have talked about some of those things, yeah. I think Jane Jane knows more than me about all this stuff because she talks to him all the time, was talking to him all the time about all this type of thing, really. So, yeah, so we could cover that.
There's just so much that goes into channeling. And a lot of people are just kind of getting in tune with their own soul guides. How long would you say it took you to gain that confidence, to trust your guides to that degree?
Well, it was a year before Chen actually came in and spoke through me. So like a year of weekly practice. And there was probably like a year before that really of going to meditation group every week. And I was doing crystal healing courses and stuff. And obviously meditation with Bobby. So it was probably like 2 years at least really before that happened. Or, got to that point. And that was just when he'd come through and talk and stand up. And he'd walk around the room and then he'd complain about I was too fat, too this, too that. And the body was like too difficult to move. And then he got again. And,
This body you're letting me use, it needs some work.
Basically, And he's always complained about that, to be fair. The fact that, of course, their vibration has to come down significantly to come in and take over. And he's always sort of likened it to being in like the old-fashioned diving bell suit, that you can't move it. It takes so much energy to actually move the arms and move your head and talk and things, which again we don't sort of realise at all. Wow. The thing, the physical vibration here is heavy, isn't it? So for another spirit to take over when they haven't been born into that body takes a massive amount of energy, I think, for them to be able to do that, which is why most channelers just sit and talk. They don't walk around the room and things, because the spirit inside needs a massive amount of energy to make this whole thing work.
Interesting. Yeah, because things are starting to ramp up a little bit, energetically. We've noticed that there's things don't take as long as they used to. And it makes you wonder whether or not people are starting to channel and they don't even realize they're channeling. Because I have noticed that we're getting like downloads recently. A lot of people are getting downloads, and it is almost like a form of channeling to a degree.
Because one of the easiest ways to start to channel actually is if you start to write. So if you just sit down with a pen and paper and just start to write to yourself. So I used to write, dear Andy, blah blah blah. You're very good looking, you're a handsome chap. I didn't, but you can just start writing to yourself. Then as you start writing to yourself, thoughts start to come in. And then if you just literally write down what you think, the conscious mind isn't reading it. So you just write down all this stuff. And then when you read it back, you think, wow, there's like some really interesting info coming through that isn't from me. Because I started to write, and then you get this constant stream of thought coming from spirit, effectively, which everybody can do. So it's a really good sort of practice to start channeling is just to start writing, to yourself on a bit of scrap paper and just see what thoughts come in and then write them down. And really quickly, you realize that it's not your thoughts. And you think, okay, I don't know where it's coming from, obviously, but, it's not me that's writing this stuff.
That's a really good tip. I'm going to go get a new notebook for that today. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to totally do that. Because I have noticed, I feel progress, but I don't feel like it's as much progress as it could be. Like, I feel like there's something I'm not doing that I should be doing.
Yeah, but you're not very patient, Laura, are you, to be fair?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No. I'm like, come on, give me some mushrooms or something, like, that's why. It's like I'm already a medium when I'm tripping.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's the thing. I mean, Bobby, you did ayahuasca, didn't you?
Sorry?
Hey?
You did ayahuasca, didn't you, years ago? Was it ayahuasca?
Peyote. Yeah.
That was the same, wasn't it? That's the same sort of out-of-body thing.
Yeah, that was pretty full on.
That'll open some doors for you, Rob.
It did.
Hey, you don't mind? You can share that story.
We all have our little journeys. That. Yeah.
So where did you go for that? Did you go to the States, or was that somebody
Portugal, funny enough. I just knew people through a shamanic retreat, and we went out into nature, and it wasn't for fun. It turned out it was really hard work, and I was very sick a lot of the time, but I eventually, through the night, round about dawn, I really got it. Really got to understand a lot of things. Yeah, so it was pretty special. I wouldn't suggest you do it unless you've got a guide,
Yeah.
I can't remember what you did experience. What did you experience out of interest?
Well, it started off like it's a long time ago, Again, it's probably about 20, 25 years ago. But what I remember once seeing, it's like I went into a room and there was a giant man in the room playing with planets and stars. And I realized it was God. And he sort of looked around, he said, and I didn't see his face, just kind of a side profile. And he says, do you want to have a go? Have a play? And I went, oh, yeah. And then from there, it turned into, I could just see it carried on after the retreat was over. And I remember sitting on the plane, and I suddenly got it. I saw everybody connected, and it was like everybody had a little shell around them, but there was like these giant rods connecting everyone up, but it was their ego that was stopping them from being one. And I went, I got it.
Literally goosebumps just shot down my back. That was so weird.
Yeah, it was special. Yeah, that was good. So I did.
Wow.
You
get a
were
lot
sick,
of,
weren't you? You were like really ill, weren't you?
yeah. You do get quite ill from it, and the shaman kept on making me drink more and more. It was really hard. But you know that I think peyote's like the baby one. I think ayahuasca's like full on. If you go to South America, you can get it. But you know, you got to
I've
really
been to
again.
Peru. I've experienced it. It
Oh
was
yeah, yeah. So you know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
So
did it 3 times in one week, and it was
oh, it's
almost too
amazing.
much.
Yeah, I don't think I'd do that. I think I got my. I think I've had my moment. Yeah.
Well, this is what they say. That's a lot of it's for. It's just opening doors that, this is sometimes there's certain doors that are locked until you try with that key. So unfortunately, some people, like our politicians, it should be a requirement that they they have some kind of an experience anyway with these plant medicines, because you really do end up learning how. That was the biggest thing anyway that I took from it, was one, that we are all one, that we are all just, our ego maybe it's all an illusion, really, is that I am you, you are me, where it's one of those things, we're all just different versions of each other in different bodies.
Yeah.
And the other is that everything happens for a reason, like everything from every minute of every day, it's like there's things that we do. You can never be late. You're always on time, as they say, it's like the universe makes it so that way you don't have to worry about missing something really big, because that is something that you're never going to miss. The universe is going to make sure that you have that experience for that reason. And so I really feel like meeting Andy was one of those big points in my life, because it's like Andy, like it was like that. Because you're the first one I really talked to about this stuff. You ever see that movie 300 where you just get kicked down the hole? That is what it felt like with all of this work. Some of my friends, I was telling them what I've been doing recently, and they're like, "You mean actual demons, Laura?" They haven't talked to me in 6 years, and I was like, "Yeah, I help remove demons and stuff from people now." And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. So for us to be on this path right now, I really do feel like every single bit of it is serendipitous. Like our soul guides have been pulling strings for probably our entire lives and guiding us to this point. And even just watching your door open a minute ago, Rob, while you were talking, your door cracked open and swung open, and it got my attention.
That's the cat.
I had to giggle to myself. I was like,
Although Andy has cleared this room, we've had a few things going on. I live in a 300-year-old house, and now and then things happen.
I think I cleared that room
Another
before
story.
I slept tonight, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, we just have so much work ahead of us. And if it wasn't for these way showers, people like Andy and yourself, who have been doing this stuff longer than actually, I was 10 years old when you guys were going through this shit back in the day. So it's like you guys were like the trailblazers, you're going through the really dark areas, clearing some paths for people like myself to come through and have an easier time. And I'm very, very grateful to everything that you've helped Andy through and what Andy has done for you, because, friendships like yours are really the only way we can get this work done. We can't do this alone. And having support from friends who understand is priceless. It really is.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, really, from my perspective. Rob's always been like the anchor, really, that I could sort of, when I thought I was losing my mind and sort of ready to sort of leave the planet, he's the only person, really, that was that sort of stability. Obviously, Jane, when I met Jane, but before, obviously, I met Jane, Rob was the only person I could actually trust properly. And there's not many people in your life that, if you always say, if you were hanging off the end of a huge big cliff, who would you have at the top? And there's not many people that you would put there.
But that I could lift you.
So, yeah. And I think that's, and that's the thing, isn't it? In your life, from your perspective, Rob, I've always said you're like a kind of signpost, really. So Rob just bumps into people and talks to people randomly, which can be quite annoying at times, and then basically signpost them where to go. So, like you have these people that just kind of are there to sign, you're going this way, you're going that way, you're doing this, you're doing that. And that's kind of what you've been quite good at doing, really.
Yeah, I didn't quite choose it, but it just seems to come to me that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? We're all here to do these things, like you say. And obviously, when John and I met Lara, obviously that was like perfect timing, really, because that was right at the inception of the whole SRA thing that we've been working on for a year in the background that no one really knew very much about at all. And then suddenly, you were obviously connecting to Terry, watching Terry's stuff, and then realised that this was a continuation of that. And it's kind of just motoring forward at such a rate of knots that it's kind of hard to keep track of it, really.
Just want to say thank you, Terry, for making this all happen. We love you.
Yeah, and Terry, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy on Saturday is going to be leading a Chen talk. For those of you who are well versed in these talks, Chen will answer some questions. Are you going to be doing the questions? Are you receiving questions? How are we working the questions this time?
I think Jane put a mail out to everyone that would book to say if you can send questions in, but obviously not personal ones about yourself, more about generic questions about spiritual stuff and that kind of thing. And then we'll sit down and obviously connect with you before, and we'll just pick out a load of questions that you can ask Chen in between whatever gaps.
I did notice that Chen also has a copy of the list, and I don't even have to ask the questions. He just starts going through the questions like he has a copy of the list himself. It was quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, right. Because that's the whole thing, really. I don't ever kind of script anything, so I don't even know what we're doing, to be honest. I know we were going to do. He wanted to do part 2 of the heart opening healing thing. So for all the people that came before, and obviously new people, the idea being to open the heart center and try and get the vibration of love moving through, and do some kind of healing as well. And then he's obviously keen to get this team in spirit working with everyone that's on that session. So this is the kind of run up to doing. I know it sounds a bit grand, but it's the run up to doing kind of massive numbers of people in physical spaces, basically.
So is he going to do a clearing on the people who are attending?
I think it was more heart-centered stuff, really, that he's sort of planning to do, trying to get people's heart centers open things. So it's not like a full SRT session, because obviously it's a bit more tricky to do that. But I think it's more about, clearing or opening the heart center, clearing out negativity. All the emotional stuff's all blocked in the heart center. So most people are kind of totally blocked and, in a anxious, depressed state because of the way their heart center is. And of course, the other problem is that the thing that you're talking about that goes in there obviously closes that down completely. So I think there's an element that they want to get people's heart open again from that experience or event that happened a couple of years ago. So there's a side angle to this that really hasn't been spoken about very much, but I know that's kind of there.
Well, that'll be fun. So you guys hear that? Tomorrow we will have a chat with Chen. We'll have a little bit of an origin story from Chen, see if he'll share some more about his human life that he's had and a bit more. But then for those of you who would like to join us, I just shared the link for you guys. So you can experience some Chen healing on Saturday, which is going to be a lot of fun. Mr. Jono is here. He's fashionably late. Hello, Jono.
Jono's just at the right time. He's just coming at the end because we've been talking about.
I know, we're just about to say goodbye, Jono. You got some catching up to do.
We've only been talking about you. Only bad things.
Wonderful. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to have met you, Rob. This was a wonderful chat. And whereabouts are you located now? You're still in Glastonbury area?
Yeah, near 20 minutes from Glastonbury. Yeah, it was lovely meeting you too.
Yeah,
you know what we could do, Lara?
We'll make sure. I was going to say he's going to have to come hang out with us when I come visit.
Yeah, I was going to say when we do the next course, the next in-person course, which we're sort of looking towards May-ish time, depending on Jono's operation. Well, we could come up for an evening and we could, have a curry chat.
I'll pop up. It's not
be good. Yeah, because the plan is the next one, really. We're still kind of planning stages, but the idea being there's a lot of like evening entertainment, so drumming circles and all sorts of other stuff. Because I know we kind of figured, Lara, that you guys would all be so knackered after we'd spoke to you all day with all the things you had to do that you'd all be kind of having tea and going to bed, really. We weren't really expecting you to come over for the beans and be up till 3 a.m. So we didn't really lay on So like the drumming.
You know,
stuff
the
and
way
the
that we raised each other's vibe, though, I mean, honestly, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it, because we all, when you have a high vibration and you go around people who are a bit like normal vibe, you kind of burns you out a little bit. But when you go around people who are just as high vibe as you, it's like you bounce that energy off of each other and it gets higher.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why, like, we would be up all night because we were up laughing our asses off. We'd be having the greatest time. We'd be having, you know, discussions about really intellectual stuff. We'd be having a laugh. We would be, you know, it's just, that was so much fucking fun. Every minute of it.
John and I would turn up in the morning, coming in thinking, you know, that you guys would be kind of tired and stuff. And it was just like, it was like being at school with kids that have been on flipping blue sweets all day that were just bouncing off each other. And it's like, wow, they're just on it. And every day it seemed to get worse. Not in terms of like control, but obviously you were all making friendships.
But remember, do you know what? You have no idea how bad that withdrawal was when I left, because I got, you know, it was like as high as we got. I felt kind of like deflated after going home and being around all, you know, the usual energy that I'm used to. It was like night and day. It was very, and when you go back to it, you know, you're just like, like you're not feeling as happy with your normalcy as you were before.
Well, that's the thing. It's a bit like going on holiday, isn't it? You know, when you work all year and you go off on your 2-week vacation or whatever, you have a great time and you look at your life and you think, why am I doing all these things I don't really enjoy? And then when you come back, you're depressed, aren't you, for a few days until you accept this is your kind of your day job again. And then you get back into the shit world of normality. I'm
just going to make an eco village, Andy. I'm just going to make it so nobody has to go home. We'll all make a home together.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you can imagine like that week that we had, even John and I were absolutely knackered by Friday. We were like proper knackered because the energy was just so phenomenal. It kind of exceeded our expectation really for everybody. But you imagine if you kind of pulled all those sorts of people together and actually lived together in some, you know, type of town whereby everything's like that and everything's positive and you're meditating, and it would be a totally different world really if we were all living in that massive high vibe.
That's what we're manifesting. I've run an eco village before. I can do it again.
You did you?
I did in South Africa. Yeah, I ran one for 6 months. Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu Stone Circle. Yep, I ran that shit.
Oh, there we go then, Laura. Just get cracking. What are you doing? Wasting your time talking to us.
You just got to manifest the spot. Somebody find us a cool spot. I don't know why, but Portugal is popping up in my head again. Maybe it was Rob's fault that Portugal is in my head now.
That's what he does. He's a signposter.
Yeah.
See, you never know what we're gonna manifest.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, oh yeah, Daniela, did you send me the thing this morning? She usually does. We have Divinate stuff that I need to promote. Let's see. Hold on. Yep, there she did. Daniela, you're amazing. She's so helpful.
Daniela said 65 acres ready to go.
I know, right? You'd be surprised how quickly we can manifest things, Andy. Just you wait.
Nothing surprises me.
That's right. Today is 222. What a cool number, you guys.
Oh yeah, that's
nice. Cool. Funny that the phone lines all went down on 222. I'm gonna see. So at 12 p.m. EST, there's going to be a live stream with Laura Pavanelli doing the Shadow Workshop. That's amazing, Laura. Love you to bits. Thank you for doing that. And at 1:30 today, there's going to be an Open Your Mind channeled message with Tracy Trimble. That's at 1:30 to 1:45 p.m. EST. And at 7 p.m. tonight in the paid membership, there's going to be Quantum Human Design conversation with Karen Curry and Nan Fairchild. Karen Curry is actually going to be my guest for Monday. I couldn't squeeze her in time. Karen is an author. She's absolutely brilliant. She is an expert on human design. So you guys will get to meet her properly on Monday. I'm going to be having a later podcast that day too. I think it's at 1 p.m. on Monday. But you don't want to miss that, okay? Trust me when I say Karen is exceptional. Don't miss it. That's at 7 p.m. today. So if any of you have been interested in that human design, this is something you don't want to miss, okay? And thank you, Danielle. I see you've got it in the comments as well. Very helpful. It was so nice to meet you, Rob. I can't wait to hang out and share a pint with you sometime when I come visit.
Definitely. I'll take you around Glastonbury.
Yeah, I would
think
love
you'd
it.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob's quite a good
Absolutely.
little host, don't you, Rob? You'd like that.
What's that?
You're quite a good little host. You do the whole running around thing.
Grumpy old man, really.
Love it.
Cool.
How exciting. So, Andy, I guess I'll be seeing you tomorrow, yeah? 10
Yeah,
a.m.
perfect.
sharp.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Good luck with that.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Really, this has been a
Thank you.
wonderful conversation.
It's
Thank
been a
you for all the
pleasure.
laughs today.
No problem. Thank you very much. Lovely
Rob's
meeting you all.
smiling, so that's good.
Much love, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow. Mwah. Bye.
Yes,
Bye.
thanks. Bye-bye.